One of the things we were touching on earlier was just fitting in training during off season because you're in off season now, correct?
Correct. And as I mentioned, I give myself a proper off season.
Hmm.
Um, I've still over the years I've competed off and on in the off season, but I don't make significant efforts to be in shape for those competitions. Those are more just as like exhibition bouts or just opportunities to kind of see friends and um, meet new people, travel, stuff like that. But usually I think it probably came from football a little bit.
Okay.
Um, just having a more seasonal approach to fitness, to life, even for that matter. Um, and I think it's helps kind of protect my love and passion for the sport. Um, like how many we could probably make a pretty grand list of athletes that like we wish we could still watch compete,
Oh
you
yeah.
know?
Hmm.
Like I would love to see Matt Chan still compete, Jason Khalipa still compete,
Yeah.
Dan Bailey, Marcus Hendren. I could go back and back and back to and even I guess you even see this in other sports too. I don't know how old you are, but I remember when Barry Sanders retired, I was like devastated. I was so sad because he was such a savage and he
Yeah.
was so fun to watch. Um, and yeah, I think by having a seasonal approach, it's kept me um, excited about the sport, excited about the training. Um, but yeah, I give myself a for real off season, and I would imagine your next question would be something along the lines of like, okay, what does that really look like?
Yeah. Hmm.
And I would consider it a very normal, healthy approach to life and wellness.
Hmm.
And I train maybe 4 to 5 times a week
Okay.
for and anywhere from 45 minutes to 90 minutes. It just kind of depends on what the day's like. I don't get really too caught up in whether or not I don't get like a full 90 minutes. If the schedule allows for it,
Yeah.
I will get my 90 minutes in, and usually that would be like about 45 minutes of just spinning or some sort of erg work.
Hmm.
Um, Walking uphill, I really enjoy that. And 45 minutes of like weight training and some higher intensity conditioning.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, 4 to 5 times a week, I take classes at our local gym here, Q Town Fitness, and I try to just soak up as much time as I can with my family, with my wife, with my daughter. I'm literally looking out the window right now at my brother's house,
Oh,
who's
do you
my
live right next
next
door to your brother?
right next door. So
That's awesome.
I get to spend time with my family. My mom lives with us, so yeah, I get to spend time with everyone, and also allows me to dedicate some time to like more of the financial or business side of
Yeah.
um, being able to compete full time, which which yeah, I kind of need that entire off season to get that logistically arranged and get the support in place to be able to take that amount of time off that I need to be able to get as fit as I need to be competitive in the sport. So yeah, so we're in off season right now, and I enjoy it. I enjoy the downtime. I enjoy it's partially feels like downtime. It feels like downtime physically, I'm going from burning 8,000 calories a day to like 3,000 calories a day.
Wow.
And so I enjoy that. Like, I enjoy not having to eat nonstop. I enjoy not having to just constantly be revved up.
Hmm.
Um, and I enjoy more of like the mental strain, if you will, and maybe being on more phone calls and doing more of that kind
Yeah.
of stuff, or more of the things that are you're more invested into, like emotionally and mentally and spiritually, such as family or work or whatever it may be. So yeah, I really enjoy that downtime a lot.
You did an Ironman recently too, right? Like,
Yeah, that you're not making me look good in regards to saying that I'm obedient to my downtime. Yeah,
yeah, fair
I did a
enough.
half Iron, which sounds crazy, but it's such, unless you're a pro,
Hmm.
it's such a low intensity event.
Yeah,
Like, you can't really send it, even though I kind of like
try to.
when the actual like legs of certain parts of it came up, I
Hmm.
would push hard. We did it as a group. There was me and two other buddies. So like, for instance, I was the first out of the water. I waited by our bikes for a while to so the group could be back together and we could all go on a bike ride together. Um, and I did the same thing like after the bike ride. So that, like, it really chilled out then. Like, we're talking like 15 minutes of like chilling, eating, using the restroom,
Yeah,
waiting for friends. But then when it got to like the actual, like the swim or the bike or the run, I I would say I tried. I didn't just like slack off the entire time and make it a leisurely event.
right.
I think I averaged like a 173 heart rate um, during my efforts. So that's a
Pretty high.
pretty high heart rate.
Right.
But it was all things considered, it was a casual event.
Hmm.
Um, it it didn't I didn't like do a ton of extra training for it. If you see behind me, I have a little bike with a desk on it.
Okay.
I'd take my calls on that in the morning, get
Yeah.
a little extra time in the saddle, and then I felt like I had enough residual fitness left from the games to be able to allow me to go do that without like hurting myself or getting some sort of like stress fracture or something like that.
Right. I think that what you're discussing with taking your off season and really embracing that off season is something very important that a lot of CrossFitters, even non-competitive CrossFitters, don't think to do. We've got an athlete training here that, I mean, he's been doing 2-a-day training for a year and a half. And I think there's a time, especially when you're in your mid-20s, to be able to do that, to build the capacity, build the motor, build the strength that you need to build.
Yeah.
But I'm 32 now. You mentioned my age, so I'm 32, and I found that hard to maintain for long periods of time. And I've kind of struggled with burnout myself. I love training. I always do. It's been something I've done for 20 years. Um, but I also have a hard time like dialing back for periods of time. So I think that that's kind of cool to be able to see you're able to still compete at such a high level and do that.
Yeah, I hope it could be a testimony to just to other athletes, because I see a lot of very good athletes getting in their head thinking that they're going to lose everything that they've got
Hmm.
in a matter of even days sometimes. Like, it's crazy
Oh yeah.
how heady some of these athletes are. Um, and and I would imagine we're probably going to see more and more of that being problematic in regards to athletes not being able to handle the mental rigor of staying well
Yeah.
and pushing yourself at the same time.
Hmm.
Um, there's an art to it. And I think coming up in team sports and seasonal sports and things of that nature, comparatively to athletes now that are just getting into year-round CrossFit. And we're seeing athletes. I actually even just got off the phone not too long ago with a young athlete, games athlete, who's struggling mentally, who's struggling hormonally, and it's obviously public information in regards to some of the younger athletes that have needed to step away, which is incredible. I'm not talking bad about anything right now.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm not making fun of these athletes by any means. I'm just pointing out a fact of the matter and something that I think is going to become more and more of a problem within the sport, because of the just the year-round nature of CrossFit, and athletes not knowing how to take seasonal approach to it, thus burning themselves out, and creating an immense amount of internal conflict. And when I say internal conflict, I mean physically, mentally, spiritually,
Yeah.
all the above. The body definitely keeps score, and it's integrated into one kind of thing. So if the body is being challenged or stressed, then also will the mind and the spirit. Similarly to, like, if the mind was in extreme anguish, it's going to take a physical toll on you. Everyone's experienced this, right? Maybe the loss of a loved one, and you've wept for hours, and you've been highly emotional. You're exhausted after that.
Oh, yeah.
You're physically exhausted. You have a headache. You feel weak. And that's an extreme example, but if you have continual and chronic, even low doses of that coming at you, no different than just training with weights or conditioning. Even low doses of it over time can become problematic. You can hurt yourself. You can burn yourself out. Um, it doesn't always have to be high dose material to jack you up.
Right.
And yeah, man. So kind of a long-winded rant there in regards to just what I believe the off season does for me, and how it allows me to learn to chill the hell out, like, and it and how to ramp it back up. It just, like, when you learn how to do that, you don't have to wait for coming from a guy who's been injured quite a bit. You don't have to wait for an injury or getting sick. I actually, even though I've been injured quite a bit recently, and I have some theories as to why I get injured so much. I think it has a lot to do with my history in football, and just kind of like how high performing I was physically. I was benching over 500 pounds, squatting nearly 800 pounds. Very, very fast, very, very explosive.
Yeah.
And now I've transitioned into being a much more aerobic, slow twitch individual, but I still have that potential neurologically to create a lot of force and a lot of speed. And I think that's where a lot of my problems have arose in regards to muscles tearing and tendons rupturing and so forth.
It would make sense.
That's my theory, because I take pretty damn good care of myself. I'm pretty hyper aware and conscious of and keeping track of a lot of metrics and a lot because I've been injured and I've gotten sick. And I've had to pay really, really close attention to this stuff so I don't repetitively do it and harm myself. So yeah, I'm not sure where I was exactly going with that, but yeah, man, I think the seasonal approach is really wise. So if there's any younger athletes that ever are listening to this, whether you're a professional or not, or aspiring or not, seasons are a good thing.
Yeah.
You can create them on your own. You don't have to wait for, you know, for literal changes in the seasons, or the actual break in the season of a sport. You can even take an entire year off.
Hmm.
I've done that. I've taken 2 years off before and still
Really?
like come back just fine.
Yeah.
Uh, so yeah, like when my wife got pregnant, I took off. When Star was born, I took off that first year. And came back and had some of the fittest I've ever been.
Hmm.
So you're not going to lose it all. It's not all going to completely disappear. It will disappear, but it won't be lost. You will be able to bring it back and find it really, really quickly. Like quite, it's really impressive how quickly it comes back.
Yeah.
Um, I could go from being, gosh, 30 pounds over competitive weight. I wouldn't say like overweight because I would say my body kind of naturally likes to be like 235, 240. Um, so I can go from being pretty over, over my competition weight to having a, very low VO2 max and just not, maybe only even being able to back squat like 400 pounds to 2 months later
Only
being
400.
able to run a 5-minute mile, squat 500 pounds, and
Yep.
weigh 220 and be like 7% body fat. So it comes back really, really quickly. There's nothing to, freak out about. And I see a lot of athletes really struggle
Yeah.
with that mentally, whether it be post injury or just they're struggling mentally and they feel like they want to take time off and they need that time off, but they're afraid to take the time off because they think they're going to lose everything that they've worked for.